All right, guys, I've got Ray from Last Bell
Hello,
Box.
everybody.
Yeah, I think you guys have seen Ray a lot in my live streams. I thought I'd do an interview with Ray, change things up a little. Ray, do you want to give your channel a shout out before we start?
Yeah, of course. I'm from Last Bell Boxing. You will see me a lot on Imran's channel with my colleague Carl. So we're quite a new channel. We already started in February. We do a live debate on our channel every Thursday at 9 o'clock. We have people like Imran on. We have other people on. We have fans on, but we also do interviews as well. So we interview boxers, we interview trainers, coaches, promoters. We've had people like Ebony Bridges on. We've had Lee Eaton from MTK on. We've had boxers like Lee Wood. We've got other people lined up as well to come onto the show. We've got a real big guest coming on the show very soon in the next few days. We also do, after all big fight card events on a Saturday, we often do sort of like a live feedback show after those events where we jump on live, just speak to the fans and see what they thought, and also have a debate about those fight cards as well. Any controversial moments or any great knockouts or any great fights. So don't forget to check out our channel. It's Last Bell Boxing.
Yeah, guys, go and give them a subscribe. They are very good. They talk sense. They talk the truth, and that's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Ray, I want to get into this. I did a video yesterday about Keith Thurman. He's called out Terence Crawford. He says he wants in 2021, he wants to fight Terence Crawford. Obviously, Keith Thurman, if we go back a couple years, was the man in the welterweight division. He was seen as the man, the unified champion. He had just beaten Danny Garcia. And as I said in the video, that it looked like the world was his oyster. It looked like, he was the man. And Spence and Crawford had just joined the welterweight division. I think he might have beaten Horn. I can't remember. But yeah, Spence was a champion. Crawford had been a champion. And Thurman was a unified champion. And Crawford, I remember him going on First Take in ESPN, and he actually said that Thurman's the man. I'm chasing Thurman, not Spence. Spence said the same. He was facing Keith Thurman. Ever since then, we got injured, 2 years out the ring, came back, fought Josecito Lopez, and didn't look great. Almost got stopped in that fight in the seventh round, very close to being stopped, and then fought Manny Pacquiao, and then he ended up losing that fight. And I said in the video that his career has been on the slide. And then after the Pacquiao fight, he's now been out for another 2 years. And I don't know where his motivation is. I don't know where his hunger is. And it just feels like Keith Thurman's career is slowly teetering away and teetering out, which is very sad because I think this guy had the ability to be a top 5 pound for pounder. He was that good in his time. He beat Danny Garcia. And what do you make of Keith Thurman's career, first of all?
I think you just hit the nail on the head with Keith Thurman. When he broke through, he looked phenomenal. He looked as though he could do it all. He looked as though he could box a bit. He could definitely punch. He could close down the space. He can cut the ring off. He really looked like a real dominant force, a force to be reckoned with at the welterweight division. Unfortunately, due to other circumstances, his form's dipped, and he no longer looks I say now that there's one time, which is the period that I'm talking about, and the Keith Thurman we know now is just Keith Thurman. So when he's now Keith Thurman, you've got to look at obviously the injuries have played a role, but then there's a time out the ring. I always say to people, and I may contradict myself by saying that, but what I will say is when you talk about time out the ring, very few fighters have returned from time out the ring and look back to their usual self. Sugar Ray Leonard, Tyson Fury, Nonito Donaire, and Mikey Garcia. But if you look at those fighters, they didn't have the injury problems as what Keith Thurman had. I suppose Tyson Fury had it psychologically, but once he got his weight off, he was back down there. The injuries that Keith Thurman have had an impact on his physicality. He could no longer do the things that made him such a force. So they took away his best assets, and they made the extraordinary fighter an ordinary fighter. I think that's a problem for Keith Thurman. Although, if Pacquiao does a job on Spence, I mean, I can't see it happening, as you know, then that may not. It may make Keith Thurman not look so bad, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If Spence does a job on Manny Pacquiao, then people will be asking even further questions about Keith Thurman. Will they be saying, because of what happened against in that Lopez fight, some aspects of the Manny Pacquiao fight, is that it for Keith Thurman? He's been out for a further 2 years. I mean, if you look at, I think since 2017, is he had like what 3 fights in that specific period, 3 or 4 fights?
2 fights.
We're talking about 4 years.
2 fights. He fought 2017. He fought Danny Garcia in 2017, and then he's fought Lopez and Manny Pacquiao. That's it.
Yes, in 4 years, and for somebody at the top of their game, no. I mean, we don't let Gary Russell Jr. get away with it. So why are we letting Keith Thurman get away with it? It's not. He's nowhere near active enough for someone of his caliber.
So if he fights Terence Crawford, just say in like 5 months' time, what happens, Ray?
Terence Crawford stops him.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I think a lot of people. You know what, Ray? The thing is with this, I put this out there that I think Terence Crawford would stop Keith Thurman as well, but I got attacked. I got like, nah, Crawford's a hype. Like, he goes, Thurman would destroy Crawford. Like, Thurman would knock him out. Thurman would beat the crap out of Crawford. Crawford ain't fought nobody. But here's the thing, Ray. If Crawford does stop Keith Thurman, you know what they're going to say, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Thurman was washed up. We all knew that. We knew Thurman was washed up.
Yeah.
So you can't really win. But yet, before that, they're saying, well, Thurman's going to beat him. So this is the problem Terence Crawford has. He never gets any credit because he beats Thurman, and then they'll say, oh, well, Thurman was washed.
Yeah. Thurman had so many years out the ring. Thurman was already exposed by Lopez and Pacquiao. It's a better fight for Crawford than it is for Thurman. For Thurman, I can see why Thurman wants these type of fights. I put out something on your Facebook page about him not wanting to fight Virgil Ortiz or Boots Ennis. And people were saying to me, that's because he's at the stage of his career where he just wants a big fights. And what I'm saying is, but because he spent so long at the ring, he's got to start again. He's got to build his way back up to those big fights. You know, yes. If you ask me about who's the top, he's one of the top welterweights in America. His name is going to come up because he's a name, but he needs to be very careful because the longer he spends out the ring, he's just going to end up becoming a gatekeeper by fact of he's not being active enough. And for somebody with a skill set of Terence Crawford, Terence Crawford hasn't fought anyone who's been at the peak at welterweight, but he has stopped everyone he's fought at welterweight. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I think, should he get into the ring with somebody like Keith Thurman, who hasn't had any tune-up fights, who hasn't been active enough, Terence Crawford is a sharp puncher. Yeah, he can be vulnerable when he's hit, but he's a sharp puncher. He can do damage, and he likes to tear up. He could be all wrong for Keith Thurman.
Is Keith Thurman? I would argue this point. Is Keith Thurman a top 5 welterweight? I don't think he is. I think there's 5 welterweights out there.
He doesn't make. If you're going to ask me now who the top 5 welterweights are around the world, I'm not putting him in the top 5. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's still not, by what he's done in the past, still not a good fighter. And when you look at what's there in America, I mean, you've got obviously the big 2. He's in Spence and Crawford. Then you've got Porter. Then you've got him in that category with Boots Ennis, or Ortiz, and then you've got himself. So he's in that particular mix now. Whereas, say, when he's more active in 2017 and given 2018 as well, you'd be looking at him perhaps above Sean Porter, but he's sunk below. You could argue that you couldn't put him in the top 5 in America right now because of the people that they've got coming up.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I wanted to ask you, obviously, I know we watch a lot of Britain. We're obviously from Britain, so watch a lot of British fights. Conor Benn's fighting Adrian
Mm,
Granados,
mm.
obviously one of our up and coming rising welterweights. Do you like that fight? What do you make of that fight?
I do. I think it's the Vargas fight, because of the nature and how quick he got rid of Vargas. I worry that it's probably made him look better than he actually is. So he needs this type of fight just to work on the stuff that he didn't manage to get done in the Vargas fight. Do you see what I mean? So he didn't. That fight was supposed to be a learning fight for him, but he got him out of there in the round. So what did he learn? So he needs to do. He needs this type of fight to do that learning. So Granados is going to pose a few questions for him, pose a few challenges for him. I still see him overcoming that. I still think he'll win, but these are the type of fights he needs. Because you've got to remember, Eddie Hearn still sees him as a pay-per-view star, a future pay-per-view star, I should say, sorry. So he really needs to build him. He hasn't had the amateur experience. He hasn't had that pedigree. So he needs a lot more learning fights than somebody like who had the amateur experience of Josh Kelly, for instance. We quite clearly saw he was rushed because of that. It's the opposite with Conor Benn. He's wanting to take his time, get him into doors hard, learning fights, step him up against those gatekeepers bit by bit. Because his division's a tough division. There's a lot of, one of our good friends, Stephen Cole, straight killers. There are a lot of serious cats at welterweight. It's always been historically a tough division. I don't think Conor Benn's ready for any one of those boys at the moment. He's probably about 18 months, 2 years off, in my opinion.
Ray, you made a point a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you still think this. And you're probably thinking, what did I say? What did I say? You said that Josecito Lopez beats Conor Benn. You said that. Do you still stick by that? Do you still think that he would beat him?
Right now? Yeah, right now, yeah. Conor Benn still doesn't have that ring craft, still doesn't have that ring IQ. This is what I mean by he needs these type of fights in a specific time frame. I feel as though if he's going to get into his best attributes are basically when he goes to war. People talk about he's using his jab a lot more, but he's been using his jab a lot more against opponents that have been allowing him to do that. Certain fighters like Josecito Lopez is just going to walk down that jab, going to navigate that jab, and he's not going to be used to that because he's not used to opponents that are a bit cute, can slip that jab, a bit defensive. He's not had that. He's not been matched against those type of opponents yet. He's not really had to think too much, apart from when he was dropped a few times by that Cedric Peno. So these are the type of fights Conor Benn needs, because that's the danger that people can make with a welterweight division. They see people who have got a few losses on their records and think they're done. And he saw that up at super middleweight with Beck the Bully when he fought Gabe Rosado. People looked at Gabe Rosado and thought he was finished. They thought it'd be easy win for Beck. And I worry that people, because of the casual fan in the UK, would want to see Conor Benn in the big fight, where the actual fans like me and you would want to see him educated properly, so that when he does get the top level, he stays there. Because I don't think he's ready for it now.
Ray, you know what? It's scary to think that. I don't even think Josecito's a top 10 welterweight. I think there's 10. I don't think he's ranked in the top 10. I'm not sure he is. I think he might be top 15, but not top 10. So that, again, shows you the depth of the welterweight division. And if he's in the top 15, Lopez, and we're saying Lopez beats, because I'm kind of at this I agree with you there. I think Lopez might be a bit too much, and he's a very tall guy as well. When he fought Thurman, he gave Thurman fits in that fight. Like he's very stopping him. So yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that. That's a tough. And the other thing is that I'm with Conor Benn. I don't know what they do with him. I don't. Okay, if he beats Granados, when are we going to see? Okay, when's there going to be that next step? Okay, fair enough. They're going to keep having these kind of fights, but eventually there's going to be that time where he's going to have to go. I just don't know who he can beat. I don't know, like even in a year and a half's time, I don't know. I don't know who you can match him up against. Are you going to match him up against Virgil Ortiz? You're going to match him up against Ennis, or you're going to match him up against Porter? I don't know, because I don't think any of those guys are like, you can't say any of the top boys like Porter and all those guys. Maybe Thurman might be past his best a little. We don't know. We haven't seen him, but I don't think anybody there is that washed up that you can see them being in a year and a half's time being washed up, where you can see, like, imagine Conor Benn against Danny Garcia, for example. Don't see him winning that fight, you know. So I don't know who do you match him up against? Do you match him up against someone like a Porter, where you just throw it, you know, after a couple more fights and say, you know what, he's had his learning fights. We've got to just take off the stabilizers and throw him to someone like Porter, who's a big name. If he loses, he can come back. I don't know how they're going to match him. What's your take? What's your opinion? Or how they're going to match him?
I think after Granados, it'll be another slight step up.
Yeah.
And then I eventually do see the end for Conor Benn, the end game, if you like, being somebody like a Porter. And if he beats Porter, they'll have no option but to pursue a world title, because he'll then get some credible world rankings. But I don't think he beats Sean Porter now. I don't think he beats Sean Porter in a year's time. I just don't. I think they're trying to play that game where they're waiting for not one of the top boys but the level before, like a Danny Garcia, a Sean Porter, to start growing old or to start showing more frailties than what they're showing now. But what they don't realise is people like Danny Garcia are losing to people like Errol Spence.
Yeah.
You know, it's no shame in losing to Errol Spence. It's not like Danny Garcia is losing to somebody like, just some random Russian or Ukrainian. He's losing to the very best. So I agree with you. It's not easy. It's not easy to pick anyone who he should be matched with, because there are some real serious dons in the welterweight division, and even the gatekeepers can cause people a lot of problems. And the only people that have gone past them have gone on to be champions. So if you are going to, so the other option is, you could put them in with a Boots Ennis or a Virgil Ortiz, because in theory they should be easier to make. They're not going to command lots of money, and with the zone being in America, it's easy to put them on the undercard of a big fight stateside.
You know what, Ray? A name that hasn't been mentioned that I think should be mentioned is Avanesian. If he can't beat Avanesian, then he shouldn't be in the ring with Danny Garcia or Sean Porter, because I think we'd all agree that I think Porter would beat Avanesian. I think Danny Garcia beats Avanesian. So if he can't beat Avanesian, then like surely that should be the next step after Granados. If you can't beat Avanesian, then there's no point of fighting. You got to have that next step up. And for me, after Granados, the next step up should be Avanesian, right?
Yeah, Avanesian's a great name. When people are talking about the 147-pound division and who Conor Benn should be fighting, I've dropped his name in the live chat a couple of times. The issue with Avanesian is, don't forget, because he's steamrolled Josh Kelly, he's onto his own path. He wants to be back up at world level himself. But I think this will be a good fight for them both. But knowing what we kind of know from our dealings with Carl Greaves on our show, that fight will probably only happen if it's for a world title eliminator. So that would just depend on where they are in the rankings, both of them. So unless the fight after the fight for the winner is guaranteed a shot at the world title, I can't see that fight happening. So really that's down to politics. But if there's no politics about it, if you just said to me now, look, Ray, the winner's guaranteed a shot at either the IBF or WBC or whichever one it is, let's just pretend, then I would say that's a great fight, because Avanesian would take Conor Benn into some places that he probably hasn't been before. He'll not take, once he's got Conor hurt, he won't take his foot off the pedal.
Who wins that fight?
David Avanesian's knows a bit too much at this stage for Conor. I think I would have to see a lot of improvements for Conor for me to be confident that Conor wins. David Avanesian isn't exactly a soft puncher. He hits quite hard. He can absorb a lot to then do what he needs to do. He's one of those throwback European fighters that doesn't mind taking 2 or 3 to land his 1 or 2. And then my other point is, if he closes down the space for Conor Benn, this is where we're going to see just how effective that jab is to get himself out of trouble, to pivot off that back foot, to get himself back in the centre of the ring again. It's all right doing it against the lesser opponents, but Evan Essien has mixed it at world level, albeit it was some time ago, but he has. So this is going to be another different challenge for Conor Benn. Can he do it? If you're asking me now, no. We'll see in 6 months to a year. It's time. The one thing you can see about Conor Benn is, to be fair to him, he does always improve. If you could ask me who my most improved fighter is over the past 12 months, it's going to have to be Conor Benn from the UK side.
Yep, fair enough. Yeah, Conor Benn. Moving on from Conor Benn, I know, Ray, you've talked about this. You've talked about this topic. Canelo Alvarez. There seems to be a few issues with Caleb Plant. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. We're confused right now to what's going on. They're talking about, he wants to be undisputed, this, that, and the other. But now there's talks and rumblings going off of Arthur Beterbiev and Canelo Alvarez at light heavyweight, which I think it's a fight that we all would like to see, probably more than the Plant fight, to be honest, because it's a fight that we actually think Canelo could lose. It's seen more as a fight where I think it'd be more even, whereas Plant would be a fight where a lot of people think that Canelo wins. Firstly, what's your situation? What do you think is happening right now? Why is this Plant fight not being made? Or is it just a case where Canelo's trying to get Plant to maybe accept, or maybe there's promotion, maybe there's issues promotionally, maybe they can't agree where the fight will take place, on what broadcast? Is it going to be on DAZN? Is it going to be on Fox? Who knows? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But what do you think's happening right now?
Well, I know when you jumped on our channel, you were quite confident it may happen on Fox. Yeah, and he gave you reasons for doing so. Since then, Eddie Hearn's released the dates for DAZN, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's got September 11th. Now, September 11th seemed to be the date that they had in mind for Canelo fighting. Now, if he's got that date and DAZN have a date there, that leads me to think that it probably will be on DAZN if it's going to happen at all. I've always maintained that DAZN have spent a lot of money. They've thrown a lot of money at boxing. When they first came about, boxers' purses went right to the very top. I do think they're still a little bit upset about how much they've had to pay Yildirim and how disappointing Yildirim was. I get where the likes of you, Carl, Andy, and other people who are on your Facebook group and on your streams are coming from, saying it's the last piece in the puzzle for Canelo. Canelo's really wants to be undisputed, so why not pay the guy what he wants? But boxing's a business, and although people say you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. If the powers that be believe that it's too much money, what they may present is you can fight Beterbiev to claim a second belt at £175, and Beterbiev will want a lot less money. So I don't know, because the other thing is Canelo's on a fight-by-fight deal. If he wants it that bad, he'll just walk away and just go, okay, I'll fight on Al Heyman show.
Yeah.
So I personally believe that Caleb Plant, if he's going to make this fight happen, he'll settle for a lot less than what he's asking for. Because it may be that his credibility gets called into question. If you look at him ability-wise, is he really better than Saunders and Callum Smith? He's probably better than, and he'd probably give a better account than what Smith did. But is he better than what Smith was when Smith was at his peak at 68? Not in my opinion. He'll probably give a better account in the Canelo fight, but Smith had his bicep taken away from him, etc. So does that mean he should be commanding more than those guys? I mean, Smith came into it the Ring Magazine champ. He won the Muhammad Ali trophy. Saunders was a 2-weight world champion. I know he didn't fight anyone hardly, but he was still a 2-weight world champion. So these are the things that's going to get put to Caleb Plant. And I think with Caleb as well. I do agree that he's looking at this as an insurance policy. He probably knows that once he is beaten by Canelo, the chances of him getting another world title are going to be very slim. So why not milk Canelo for as much money as possible? But the other argument again is the zone aren't flush as what everyone else thinks. I think they're trying to be smarter about how they're investing their money and how they're spending their money. And if Caleb Plant's asking for silly money, they may just opt to move off.
So moving on to Arthur Beterbiev, if Canelo does fight that, firstly, you've got to give him massive respect if he does go and look to fight someone like Beterbiev, who's an absolute monster right now and just destroying guys at light heavyweight. That for me would be, I think that might even surpass Spence Pacquiao as the fight of the year in terms of, although Beterbiev hasn't got a name like Spence or Pacquiao, but in terms of the credibility of the fight, how big a fight it is, and Canelo might even go into that fight a slight underdog, to be honest. So a lot of people do think Beterbiev beats him. Now, I had somebody on just before you, Ray, and he said that he think Canelo beats Beterbiev. A lot of people had Richard, Canelo beats Beterbiev. A lot of people think Canelo beats Beterbiev, but there's a lot of people that also think Beterbiev beats Canelo, like yourself. Like there's Carl as well, who thinks Beterbiev beats Canelo. So what that shows to me is that there's debate. There's people on both sides of the fence that think that there could be a separate winner. Whereas, like when we're talking about Canelo Plant, nobody's on Plant's side saying that he's going to win that fight. So what that tells me is that when you've got two guys that people think could win the fight, and I got criticized for saying that I think Canelo should fight Beterbiev after the Billy Joe fight. Obviously, I want him to become undisputed, let him fulfill his dream. But people said, you want to see Canelo lose. I said, no, it's not that I want to see Canelo lose. It's the fact that I think he can beat Beterbiev. That's why I want to see him fight Beterbiev, because surely that's what, as boxing fans, we want to see. We want to see a guy be challenged and pushed. I don't think there's anyone at 160 or 168 that can really push Canelo anymore. Golovkin might be the guy, maybe Benavidez, but Beterbiev is probably the guy that could push Canelo right now. Maybe Bivol as well. Bivol's he's a 175 guy that's very skilled. But Beterbiev is the fight that we want to see, and a fight that could push Canelo. What's your take on this fight? And do you think this should happen?
I think it should, on the basis that this is Canelo, and you've used the phrase before, daring to be great, by going into a fight being an underdog as opposed to being a heavy favourite. The reason why there's not that much fire, if it wasn't for the sake of being undisputed, nobody would want the Caleb Plant fight. Yeah. Nobody would want it. I've seen people like Stevens say, Plant's got a chance in that fight. Nah, I gave him the same chance as what I gave Billy Joe Saunders in the Canelo fight.
Before this interview, Ray, sorry to cut you off.
No,
I had somebody on, and you know what he said? Caleb Plant's a Billy Joe Saunders 2.0. He said he's basically Billy Joe and just a bigger version of Billy Joe, basically a slick guy that moves around a little bit, bigger guy, big natural super middleweight, taller. To be honest, he said, I see no difference in the fight, and I see no difference in how it plays out. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I would agree. I can't see any different how it would play out. I can't see Plant doing anything to Canelo. Whether he makes Canelo miss as much, I think Canelo will probably adapt to Plant a lot quicker than what he could adapt to Saunders. I'm not too sure Plant's feet are as quick as what Saunders are, but it'll probably turn out the same way. With Beterbiev, Beterbiev brings a different game. He's not going to dance about the ring. He's strong. He's a pressure fighter. He's a bully. He's going to want to put it on Canelo from the off. He's going to want to stop Canelo moving, cut his angles. He's going to give him a stiff jab and then follow it up with a backhand or follow it up with hard shots to the body. He's going to really test Canelo.
Yes.
So this is the type of fight we want to see, because in my opinion, if Beterbiev can keep it up, he can win the fight. Canelo's in with a chance, don't get me wrong, because Canelo's such an accurate puncher and Beterbiev can get hit. So he's in with a very, very good chance. But this is what we want to see. You know, we want to see fights where, you know, you wake up one day and you think, oh, it's definitely Canelo. You go to bed the next day, you know, you've been tossing and turning all night because you think it's going to be a Beterbiev. Where with Canelo Plant, it doesn't matter how you toss and how you sleep during the night. Monday to Sunday, you're always going to see Canelo.
Yeah. You know what, Ray? You know, I actually was saying exactly the same thing. You know what? I actually think that Beterbiev has a style that can beat Canelo. And here's what I mean by that is I saw Canelo fight Golovkin. And I saw Golovkin put a lot of, I think Golovkin was very physically strong, very big puncher. And he was able to make Canelo work 3 minutes of the round. And we know that Canelo's had stamina issues. Now, people have said that Canelo has corrected these stamina issues. He's put those stamina issues to bed. I disagree. I personally think that Canelo has been fighting guys that haven't really been able to put him under pressure. And what I mean by that, by slick guys, but they're not really going to be able to put him under any physical pressure. Billy Joe can't put Canelo under any pressure. He's not really troubled by his power. He's not really troubled by his physical presence. If anything, Canelo's the one that's troubling them. Same with Plant. Benavidez, I got question marks. He might be able to, but again, I'm not so sure. With Beterbiev, I know Beterbiev is going to be able to push Canelo back. I know Beterbiev has the kind of power where Canelo's going to be wary of him, just like he was with Golovkin, right? And Beterbiev's bigger than Golovkin. Beterbiev's stronger than Golovkin. Beterbiev is a bigger puncher. Naturally, he's a bigger man. He's a bigger puncher than Golovkin. So again, I think Canelo's stamina is going to come into play there. And Beterbiev might just wear Canelo down and stop him. Like, you know, I don't think he's going to knock Canelo out where he's going to hit Canelo with a shot and just Canelo's going to be out cold. No, I think it's going to be more he'll wear him down. If he beats him, he'll wear him down and beat him to a pulp where Canelo's taken so many shots where he's just worn down and Beterbiev stops him. That's how I see Beterbiev winning that fight if he wins. But I can also see Canelo hitting him. But then again, is Canelo really a big puncher at 168? We saw Billy Joe absorb a lot of his shots. Is he a big knockout artist? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit like when, you know, it's when we're making the point about sort of like, you know, people like Beterbiev getting put down by Callum Johnson, you know, and I was saying, well, Callum Johnson is a real big puncher, you know. For me, Canelo is a very accurate puncher, but he's not a one punch KO artist. But because he hits it often and clean, they can hurt you. They can damage. You know, if you keep hitting somebody on the jaw or specific parts of the body, clean and often, it will hurt. It will do some damage. But for me, because Canelo's going to have to work, he's going to have to work every single second of every single round. That's going to be a lot of concentration. So Beterbiev will be doing to Canelo what Canelo's been getting away with doing to other people. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting.
Do you think there's a case where if Canelo can't hurt Beterbiev, that Beterbiev might do to Canelo what Maidana did to Adrian Broner, just ragdoll him, just literally like drag him around the ring? And
Well, Canelo, it's possible, but I also think as well, what's more possible, Canelo's a very smart fighter. He's very, very intelligent, and if he does realize his stamina's going to go in that fight, I think he'll probably just plant his feet, stay in the pocket, and up his upper body movement, and up his head movement. What I mean by using the word up is you'll just increase them. So instead of trying to move his legs a bit, you'll just stay in the pocket and think, you know what it is, I'm just going to ride with these shots, and that's what he does so meticulously. He makes boxing look like a game of inches. The way he moves his head and moves his upper body movement. I think he'll be doing that in the center of a pocket. It may sound as though he'll be daft too, but if his stamina's going, how can he move around the ring? Because then he'll slow down even more. So those are the type of things he's going to have to do. And when he does that, he's very comfortable in the uncomfortable. So what I mean by that, he's a very good inside fighter, Canelo. So he's going to have to catch. He's going to have to make an inside fight. It's then down to when a Beterbiev, because how well can he box on the back foot? He's very good for going forward. But then if Canelo starts to push him back by being on the inside, we're going to see a different sort of fight. So it depends how the fight plays out, because Beterbiev could use his physical strength and rag Canelo around like a rag doll, but it's whether Canelo's smart enough or daft enough to be drawn into that. I think Canelo can be too smart.
Fair enough. Ray, I also want to ask you about the lightweight division, and then we'll move on to the heavyweight before we wrap up.
Yeah.
The lightweight division, the lightweight and the light welterweight, because obviously we got Josh Taylor there as well. I had another guest before you actually, and you'll see that. I'll put that up tonight. He said that Tank Davis beats everybody. Tank Davis right now is seen as some kind of monster. He beats everybody from 130 to 140, and he said he would stop Josh Taylor. And he said that the only guy that could beat him is Lomachenko, and Lomachenko could be wiped out as well if Davis is being seen as a monster right now. Obviously you've given your opinions about it. What do you think Davis should do? Do you think Davis should prove himself against Josh Taylor at 140? Or do you think he should go back down to 135?
Go back down to lightweight. Go back to lightweight. He's got far too much business that's not being attended to. You need to sort that out first. Sort your own garden out before you start talking about next doors. You need to start pursuing fights with Haney, Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia. He needs to prove that he's not even the best in his country at 135. Never mind being the best in the world. He hasn't got a legitimate belt at 135. All this three world champion nonsense. When he fought back Gamboa for the WBA, it wasn't. I didn't see that as a regular, a proper belt for that weight. When you saw him fight Barrios, that wasn't a proper belt for that weight, because they were all occupied by other people who had the super versions. So for me, his ability, I rate his ability. I'm not gonna, don't get it twisted. I rate his ability. His punching power, something else for the lighter weights. I haven't seen power like that since Wilder and Golovkin, aside from Inoue. But there's a difference between Inoue and Tank. That difference is Inoue is wiping out fellow world champions, and people in the top 5. Tank isn't. Although, aside from Leo Santa Cruz, he's not. People talk about Pedraza at featherweight, and Pedraza's gone up to 140, but he's not exactly one of the top dogs at 140, is he? He's kind of just at a couple of levels below that. So I just think that there's so many names out there at 135, and I don't like this Mayweather talk about how they're only going to look at PBC fighters. I think that just limits him further, and it opens him up for more criticism. He needs to start taking. He needs to start looking at other opponents at the lightweight division and kind of just leave the 140 division aside, because I think Barrios was a carefully selected opponent. Yeah.
Ray, I really want to see Josh Taylor v. Gervonta Davis, though. I want to see it. I think you would want to see. I think we would all want to see. I like that fight. I want to see that fight.
I mean, it's power and speed against sort of somebody who's got that but who's got that boxing ability, and also got that tactical skill to make adjustments in the fight, because Josh Taylor could adjust to any opponent in the ring. He's proved that with all his fights. So that'll be a really interesting battle to see whether or not Tank can pick somebody who's, can he unlock the door? Can he unlock that door? Because Josh Taylor's not going to make it easy for him. I do favour Tank in certain fights against certain fighters that are made for his style. And Barrios was made for Tank style. I said that on our show and your show, but Josh Taylor won't be. So that will be an interesting fight. Although Josh Taylor have this fight against Catterall, and then you'll move up. So whether that fight's going to happen or not looks unlikely.
So do you think Josh Taylor, coming to Josh Taylor, what do you think he should do? What would you want him to do?
Being a British lad, I want him to have a fight in the UK, so all these fans, especially with this coronavirus business coming to an end. By that I mean there's more and more fans being allowed to arenas and stadiums to watch sports. So I would like to see him back in the UK to have a fight with a Jack Catterall, just so people in Scotland and whoever else wants to be there can just see him in the flesh and, you know, give the thanks to him. After that, what else is there to do at 140? Because we can say Tank, but then let's just say he beats Tank. You're going to say, well, why doesn't he not hang around for Lopez? He beats Lopez. Oh, well, why doesn't he not hang around for, you know, Haney? Because Haney might be moving up, you know? So at some point, he needs to think, I need to step up. So I think he's probably 1, maybe 2 fights away from stepping up, because once you're undisputed, and you've got to remember as well, at some point, the governing bodies are going to make him face mandatories. So he's not going to be able to keep all the belts because, you know, the IBF might order a mandatory. He wins that. The WBC will order one. Then the WBA, then the WBO. So by the time he gets to you know, you can't have any unification fights. So everyone's going to have to work their way to a mandatory position. I just think that'll be dangerous. He may lose motivation. He may not be interested. He'd probably be better off having one more fight at the weight and then moving up to welterweight.
Do you think a fight down the road could be Conor Benn v Josh Taylor, a massive fight, like in 1.5, 2 years' time?
If Conor Benn is on the right trajectory, yeah, I believe that'll be a big fight. Is that the fight that Josh Taylor wants? He'll probably argue if it's for a world title or Conor Benn's got a world title, then yes. But as things start to go now, he probably thinks he's a level above Conor Benn.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Would you say Conor Benn's a bigger name than Taylor?
Yeah, definitely 110%, because he's been on the Sky platform.
It's disgusting, really, when you think about it, isn't
it? It is because talent-wise and ability-wise, there's only one winner, and that's JT. But because Conor Benn, A, he's got a really famous dad, and B, he's been promoted by Eddie Hearn, and he's one that Eddie Hearn likes, so he has been promoted properly. Yeah,
I'd have to agree with you, which is really sad when you think about it, that an undisputed. You know what? Someone was saying that there's only 3. One American was saying there's only 3 top UK fighters right now from the UK: Josh Taylor, Anthony Joshua, and Tyson Fury. Would you agree with that?
Sonny Edwards is a good fighter at flyweight.
He's
world champion.
Yeah.
But then again, it's whether the American chap knows who Sonny Edwards is. I think that's probably a little bit of a problem some of our boys are facing.
This wasn't someone this was just something that I saw on, I think it might have even been on our Facebook group. I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
This was something that I saw, that they said that there's these 3 fighters right now that active, you know, that are 3 top fighters from the UK right now.
Was he on about pound for pound list?
Hey?
Was he on about pound for pound or just in general?
No, just in general, 3 of the top, you know, you'd say the 3 top fighters, you know, 3 top fighters in terms of, you know, they're the only fighters that really matter at the minute, you know, something like that. I think he was trying to say that, you know, the UK aren't very good at boxing. They've only got 3 top fighters. He was trying to have a go at, you know, at the UK.
Yeah.
I don't know who we got. We've got quite a few, I would say. There's Warrington lost to Laura Dinney. He was
Warrington lost, but Warrington, to be fair, he never lost his belt in the ring.
No, we didn't. No.
You know, so you do have Warrington there. You know, for me, let's see what Callum Smith can do at light heavyweight. He's still known.
Boazzi.
Yeah, Joshua Boazzi. You know, in terms of world champions, they are diminishing, but in terms of talent coming through, we still have a few knocking on the door. This Lee McGregor at bantamweight, he looks a good prospect. Don't forget, Liam Williams is still seen at world level because of the performance he put in against Andrade. So you've got those. Akoli. I think Akoli is the other name I was trying to think of.
Oh yeah.
The problem with the cruiserweight division, it's just dominated by Europeans. But for me, when you said that and you were talking a little bit, I was thinking there's one more. I could picture him, but For me, it's Lawrence Okoli. I think Lawrence Okoli could clean up that division. I really do.
Yeah, he's a very good fighter. He's big as well. He's big and strong. It's almost like a weight bully, isn't he? At that weight, he's too big for those guys. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the heavyweight division. So it looks like we've got Joshua Usyk coming up. We've got Fury Wilder. He looks like he's been training hard. He's really working hard. He's got the fight's in 20 more days, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's working his socks off. You can see that he wants to avenge this loss that he's had. And to be honest, I like what Wilder's doing. He's fixed himself, and I think he's been working very hard. And has been keeping in his bubble, his comfortable bubble that makes him feel comfortable. Anything that makes him feel comfortable and makes him perform better on the night. He's got to do what he's got to do. What do you make of what Wilder's been doing in training, and what do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think of what Deontay Wilder's been doing?
Like you just said, it seems to be working for him. I don't like it because man, it feels it makes me think as though he's feeling himself and making himself have fake confidence. The bench press, for example. What was the relevance of that? The dancing and the sort of, when he's on the pad, you'll see him dancing with Malik Scott, and I think, but you've never been that type of fighter before. Just go back to go back to basics. Fighters who have had defeats usually do that. They strip it down, analyze it, reflect on it, and go back to basics. I don't think it would make any difference who he's got in his corner. People are saying he's got a new team, he's focused. He could have the late great Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, and he still wouldn't be able to manage Tyson Fury. I think if Tyson Fury walks forward and tries to walk him down with his hands down low, it massively increases the chances that Wilder has got in that fight. And Wilder's always going to have a puncher's chance. But I just see...
Ray, what does he do to win that fight? What does Wilder have to do? What do you think Wilder has to do to beat Tyson Fury? If you're thinking at it from his perspective, what do you think Wilder has to do to win that fight?
If you're asking me, and if I'm Malik Scott in the corner, what we're saying is, look, Fury's a mover. He came to you in the second fight, but he's a mover. He's probably going to expect you to come forward, to walk forward, to try and blast him out. You've been working on your physical strength. He's taller than you. He's got a bigger body than you. He's a bigger target. So why don't you throw feint to the head, target the body, and go for the right hand over the top? That's what I would tell him to do. Target the body to stop Tyson Fury moving, slow him down, feint to the head, touch him at the body, and look at the right or the left over the top.
Do you think Wilder? I know we talk about Wilder's skills and how bad he is. He won an Olympic bronze medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
He hasn't got the amateur. He hasn't been fighting as long as someone like Tyson Fury.
That's right. Yeah.
Do you think Wilder's a better boxer than what he actually has shown in his career thus far? Or you just don't think he doesn't have it?
That's a very, very good question. Because then really it's implying that he's just kind of thought he's over reliant on his power.
Yeah.
I haven't seen much of him as a pro. Well, I've seen a lot of him. I've seen a lot of his fights. But what I mean is, I haven't seen a lot of his boxing ability in those fights to suggest that he's a lot better than what he's showing. You know what I mean? For example, Devin Haney, I've seen a lot of his fights. He's terrific on the outside. But I hadn't seen a lot in his previous fights to see he can mix it up on the inside. So when he mixed it on the inside against Linares and he was getting caught on a lot, it was easy for me to say, well, he can't do it because I'd never seen it before. I haven't seen much of Deontay Wilder boxing, actually using boxing skill. He just basically threw really quick shots, obviously powerful shots from weird angles, and that's what caught his opponents off guard. I can't, and I might be wrong, but I don't know off the top of my head him outboxing any opponent.
No, just knocking.
Definitely not in Yeah, I mean, he's had 10 defenses to the WBC before Fury. Is that right?
Yeah,
10,
yeah. He's had
10. And if you're going to look at those defenses, he didn't outbox anyone there. So I don't think he's a better boxer than what he tells people. I think, or what people say he is. I generally think he's not that good of a boxer.
Fair enough. Okay, let me ask you: who do you think will be last man standing then when they all fight each other? Who will
At the
come
heavyweight? Fury. I think the reason why is when Fury gets hit and he gets hurt, he recovers so well. That's what AJ doesn't have. And even though Deontay Wilder has got courage, and AJ's got some courage as well, not to get it twisted. Tyson Fury has everything. The only thing he doesn't have is power. Yes, he pummeled Wilder, but that's because when we're going back to the Canelo point, he was hitting Wilder cleanly and often. And if you do that, it's inevitable. It's going to have cumulative damage. Tyson Fury doesn't have that power that Wilder and Joshua have, that true one-punch power. But if he did, none of them would be able to get near him because his jab sets other things off beautifully. He moves his feet. He moves like a welterweight. Like a middleweight. He shouldn't be doing. Someone of 19 stone shouldn't be moving with ease like the way Tyson Fury does. So he's a very, very gifted fighter. So for me, if they're going to have a bit of a heavyweight tournament and Tyson Fury's in, and all the big names are in, Tyson Fury wins quite comfortable for me.
Fair enough. Just the last question, Ray. I didn't ask you for your Canelo Beterbiev prediction before we end it up.
I would go for if they fought now. I'll go for Beterbiev.
By points or?
This is a tricky one.
Because it's a tricky one. You know why? Because I don't think he'll win a points decision against Canelo.
No, I don't think he would either. Because I don't think he would outbox him. I would probably. I mean, I wouldn't rule out a stoppage if he did. I wouldn't rule it out, and I think Canelo's defense is too good for him to be caught on a single shot. But I think he would cut off the ring by using his brain to do so. Target Canelo's body to stop moving, make Canelo work to the point where he's just so tired, he's so fatigued from concentrating, and then just pick him off to the point where it's either waved off or Eddie Reynoso doesn't let him out for the next round.
Wow. Yeah. Could well be. I don't know whether I think a lot of the Mexican fans are going to be like, oh, there's no way Canelo. But when you're in a fight against a beast like that, you've got to look out for your fighter. You have to. You don't know what situation. But that could be, there's a big size difference in there, Ray.
It is.
That's a big size difference. Canelo's not a big 168. I know he's walked through 168 divisions very weak, right? It's very.
Oh weak. Yeah. It is. Canelo wouldn't be able to do what he's doing now.
Oh no.
10 years ago. The problem is the weight in the ring. Now, yes. Canelo may impose a weight rehydration limit on Beterbiev. That's what I think will happen. Which may make me kind of rethink that a little bit. Because I'm looking at it if he doesn't. Because if he doesn't, Beterbiev's going to get into that ring probably around the 200-pound mark. Which is a hell of a lot of weight. Canelo will probably get in the ring about 185, something like that. So Beterbiev will still have that extra 15 pound, that just over a stone. I can't see him pushing Beterbiev back. I mean, I just can't.
Yeah, I'd have. That when it looks scary when you think about it like that, it does. Would Canelo beat Makabu at the cruiserweight?
Well, there will be some cruiserweights Canelo can beat. Yes, whether he beats Makabu, who fought Tony Bellew some years back, didn't he? And he gave Tony Bellew, he floored Tony Bellew. Depends on what Mukabu's got left.
Because he's a champion, ain't he, Makabu? He's WBC.
He is, but he's been around for a while, you know, because he's the older brother of Martin McCauley, isn't he? Yeah, the brothers. Yeah, because Billy Nelson told us when he was on our show. But it just depends, because from what I'm hearing from the likes of Billy Nelson, and I've heard on Tony Bellew interviews that, you know, Makabu's getting a few miles on the clock, so it could be another one where Canelo's picking him at the right time.
Yeah.
But there becomes a point, Imran, where a fighter's opponent becomes just too big.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't. And you know, the skill set that you've got sometimes can be nullified by the opponent's size and physical strength. And I just think cruiserweight's an absolute no-go for Canelo.
You know why I said Makabu? Because I knew that Makabu's probably one of the weaker ones. Like, I wouldn't say Okoli, because Okoli's too big.
Yeah.
And but Makabu's 6 foot tall. He's quite a big. He's a big guy. Don't get me wrong. He was massive when he fought. Like, he looked big, but he just looks the kind of guy where I can see Canelo could. Like, I think Canelo could get the job done in that one. I'm not sure against Bradius and Okoli, that would be too much for me. But that's what I mean. When you move up weight, you have to select the right. You know, you have to select the right opponents, right?
You do in some respects. I mean, the difference with this and Tank is, it seemed to be, for me, that it was either Barrios or nobody at 140.
Yeah.
And I don't really like to see that, because if you're going to dare to be great and jump up to that weight class, you should really be prepared to fight anybody at that weight class. So are you really daring to be great, or are you just hand selecting your opponent to appear great? Because fans who are very educated in the sport, like you and you know, like myself, will criticize that. And it seems to me that people like Canelo want those educated boxing fans on their side.
Yeah.
So in order to do,
sorry to cut you off, Ray. I didn't like one of the comments that Leonard Ellaby made about Taylor. He basically said, well, you know, Josh Taylor, you know, there's probably not 50 people at Tank's fight that knew who Josh Taylor is. He goes, Josh Taylor's not known by anybody, you know, he's not. But what's that got to do with, he's an undisputed champion? Surely he's more well known than Barrios.
Yeah, of course.
Are you telling me a fight between Taylor and Taylor and Davis doesn't? I don't understand it. Surely Davis is about creating legacy and creating history, right? Surely he wants to be on display. I don't understand the logic. A guy just got all the belts. It's not like Davis has achieved so much where, you know, like Mayweather or Pacquiao, where they were like 5 division, 6 division world champions. They've beaten so many Hall of Famers. Like, this guy's not beaten. Like, we're still looking at his resume and go, like, you know, I just feel like they're talking as if he's like already a Hall of Famer or something.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's a worry. And this is what I'm on about when you do jump up the weights. It's all well and good winning a version of a world title, shall we say? But if you're waiting for the right opponent to come up, and you're fighting against carefully matched opponents, then how much credibility are we, the paying public, because it's still people like me and you who pay to watch these fights. So our hard-earned money is going on these fighters who we believe are cherry picking, and that's essentially what's happened, you know, because there would have been other guys at 140. I mean, if they turned around and made the Regis Prograis fight, then I would applaud Tank, because he's still a serious don at 140. But for Leonard Ellaby to come out, what he said, in my opinion, was very disrespectful to Josh Taylor. Very, very, very disrespectful. And Tank's still got a lot to prove before he can see he belongs in that particular category.
Yeah, I'd agree. Ray, I really appreciate having you on.
Thank you very much for having me on.
And guys, subscribe to their channel, Last Bell Boxing. Make sure you get involved on Thursday, 9 p.m. They have guests on. They have, they do interviews with, boxers, promoters, people involved in boxing. So make sure you join. Make sure you subscribe to their channel. Make sure you give them comment, give them comment on their videos and give them a like. Just subscribe to their channel. And Ray, I appreciate having you on.
No problem, brother.
Take care, and yeah, we'll definitely do a live tomorrow, and we can all get involved.
No worries, pal. No worries. I'll be there.
Take care, Ray.